Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. Grade 9, I am absolutely thrilled to be hanging out with you today. As students at St. Paul American School Clark, you know you're constantly elevating your academic game, right? Well, today we're going to master two incredibly powerful communication skills: synthesizing information from multiple texts and writing a compelling, personal narrative. Believe me, these dual skills are going to serve as essential tools for your entire high school journey. They're basically your secret weapons to help you think deeper and express yourself much more clearly.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our agenda for today. First, we'll cover our Grade 9 English objectives. Then we'll get into synthesizing multiple texts, followed by a synthesis worked example. After that, we'll talk about writing a personal narrative, hit a quick misconception check, and finally, wrap it all up with a formative check and recap.
All right, let's kick things off. Section 1, Grade 9 English Objectives.
Now, you might be wondering why we're focusing so heavily on these specific skills. Well, the vision for your education at SPS Clark is super ambitious, right? Equipping you for top universities worldwide. But how do you actually develop that kind of critical thinking, leadership, and global perspective? It doesn't just happen by accident. Mastering synthesis and narrative writing are the exact critical thinking skills that quite literally open those international doors. When you can weave complex ideas together and tell your own meaningful story, universities and future employers definitely pay attention.
Moving right along. Section 2. Synthesizing multiple texts.
So, the crucial point here is that synthesis isn't just about reading a bunch of sources in isolation. It's really about looking for the relationships between them. You're actively searching for areas where different authors agree or disagree. By doing this, you aren't just copy-pasting what they said. You're actually drawing broader conclusions and providing entirely new insight into a topic based on how those sources interact with each other. You literally become a creator of new knowledge, jumping right into the academic conversation.
Honestly, if you take away just one distinction today, let it be this: the difference between summary and synthesis. A summary simply restates information without any new insight. Think of it like this. If you just summarize, you're essentially just stacking bricks in a pile. It's useful, maybe, but it's not very impressive to look at. Synthesis, on the other hand, draws on multiple sources to reach a broader conclusion. You're taking those exact same bricks and actually building a brand new house.
Let's move to Section 3 and see how this builds with a synthesis worked example.
Okay, let's say we're looking at 3 different sources discussing healthy eating in children. Before we can even think about synthesizing, we first have to group our sources by topic and understand their individual points. So, Justin and Price argue for using incentives and rewards. Ben Joseph suggests parents should be positive role models, and Nepper and Chai state that this requires patience and consistency. Right now, these are just 3 separate summaries. The real magic happens when we actually put them together.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how to do it. Notice how the author uses transition words like similarly and support. They aren't just listing dry facts, they're actively putting these distinct sources into a conversation with one another. By pointing out that Nepper and Chai support Ben Joseph's suggestions, the writer has drawn a real relationship between the texts. And that leads to a brand new, broader conclusion about how parents can combine these strategies to build healthy habits. That, my friends, is synthesis in action.
All right, let's shift gears. Section 4, Writing a Personal Narrative.
So, what's the difference between a straight narrative and a personal narrative? Well, a straight narrative is just recounting a sequence of events. Like telling me about a fun day you had hanging out at a theme park. But a personal narrative, that requires you to dig for a deeper, much more significant life lesson. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, hold on, I'm only 14 or 15 years old. How much life experience do I really have? But trust me, finding that deeper meaning is entirely possible for someone your age. You don't need a decades-long dramatic life story. You just need to find the so what in a small, specific moment by digging a little deeper into your own reflections.
So, how do you actually get to that deeper meaning? Well, growing as a writer is a highly iterative process. It requires incredible patience. You always start with the seed of an idea, just a small memory. Then you move into the planning phase. But the real heavy lifting happens in step 3, multiple drafts. A personal narrative develops powerfully over time. You probably won't find the deep life lesson on your very first try. And you know what? That's exactly how it's supposed to work.
As you work your way through those multiple drafts, you need to actively revise by asking yourself some tough questions. Like, does my lead actually engage the reader and leave them wanting more? Why am I telling this story? Does my conclusion leave my reader satisfied? Pausing to actually answer these questions forces you to step back and understand the real reason you're writing this.
If you can't answer, why am I telling this story? Well, you haven't dug deep enough to find the life lesson quite yet.
Now, what's really interesting about this reflection is that it comes from a 5th grade student named Juliana. She was writing about a seemingly super simple moment, literally just looking at a skyline. But through the drafting process, she dug deep and extracted this absolute gem. Maybe looking on the bright side could actually turn things bright. She took a basic visual observation and turned it into a broader, deeply positive life lesson. Honestly, if a 5th grader can extract this level of meaning from a simple moment, I know for sure you 9th graders can write incredibly profound personal narratives.
Okay, let's do a quick Section 5 misconception check.
Let's test what we've covered so far. When you're asked to synthesize sources for a paper, is it enough to just summarize each one?
No way. The answer is a firm no. I really want to clearly establish this boundary. A summary only restates information. Synthesis requires you to step up, draw on multiple sources, and reach a broader conclusion. It requires your own brand new insight. Never just hand in a stack of summaries when a synthesis is what's required.
Okay, what about your writing assignments? When your teacher asks for a personal narrative, is it okay to just recount the events of a fun weekend?
Again, that's absolutely a no. A true personal narrative requires digging for a deeper, much more significant meaning or lesson learned. Remember, the magic question in narrative writing is always, so what? Why does this story actually matter? Answering that question is what turns a simple recounting of an event into a truly meaningful piece of writing.
We're in the home stretch. Section 6, formative check and recap. Take a brief mental moment for this formative check. Which of our skills involves grouping sources by topic, looking for connections, and using transitions to put authors in conversation? Did you guess it? If you said synthesizing information from multiple texts, you hit the nail on the head.
So, as we wrap things up today, let's review the whole shebang, the core concepts you've officially mastered. First, you now understand exactly how to synthesize information. You know how to build broader conclusions from various sources by putting them in conversation with one another. And second, you know how to write a personal narrative. You're ready to move past a simple retelling of events and use an iterative drafting process to uncover a much deeper life lesson.
I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. How will mastering these two distinct communication skills open doors for your future at top universities worldwide? Think about it. Connecting text to find new meaning and connecting your own experiences to deeper life lessons, these are the absolute hallmarks of a brilliant global thinker. Take these tools, apply them to your grade 9 assignments, and just watch your academic potential soar. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.